Right then, pull up a chair, grab a pint or a cup of tea if you're feeling proper, because today we're diving headfirst into the papal jacuzzi of scandal, power and enough family drama to make the Kardashians look like a Sunday school picnic. This episode of A Swig of History is all about the man, the myth, the full-blown Renaissance telenovela, Pope Alexander VI, also known as Rodrigo Borgia. Picture this. It's 1492. Columbus is sailing the ocean blue, and in Rome, a smooth-talking Spaniard named Rodrigo Borgia slides into the papal seat like it's a velvet chaise lounge. The man is charming, rich, politically shrewd, and, let's not sugarcoat it, about as morally conflicted as a wolf in a sheep sanctuary. You've heard of the Pope as the Vicar of Christ. Well, Alexander VI was more like the CEO of the Borgia Family Corporation, Inc. Motto, God helps those who help themselves, to power. This is a tale of nepotism, backroom deals, poisoned chalices possibly, and sexy scandals that would have made the Sistine Chapel blush if it had been finished yet. Rodrigo Borgia came from a not-so-humble background in Spain, but it was Italy where the real action was. The Borgia clan were like a medieval mafia family who figured out the ultimate hack. Why control the streets when you can control the church? Our man Rodrigo wasn't just dipping his toes into the holy water. He cannonballed into the political deep end. Before he even snagged the papal tiara, he was raking in church offices like Pokemon cards. By 1456, he was already a cardinal. By 1492, Pope, baby. And here's the kicker. His papal campaign was one of the most expensive in history. Bribes? Oh, absolutely. Backdoor deals? You bet. It was less, let us pray, and more, let us pay. Now, you might have thought popes were busy with prayer and pondering sin, but Alexander, he was out here drawing global borders like a drunk cartographer with a crayon. In 1493, he drops the papal bull Inter Caetera, casually divvying up the entire non-European world between Spain and Portugal. You get a continent, you get a continent. Oprah, but make it imperialism. This wasn't just a land grab, it was a spiritual power move. He declared that the church, and by extension himself, had divine dibs on blessing colonization. It was like the world's worst game of Monopoly, except instead of hotels, you got forced conversions and smallpox. And here's a spicy sidebar. By the way, get this. Alexander's decision in Inter Caetera helped lay the groundwork for the Treaty of Tordesillas, which literally shaped the global map. All because one man in Rome had a sharp quill and a god complex. Now, if you thought Game of Thrones was just fiction, buckle up. Alexander had kids, which, by the way, is a bit of a faux pas for a pope. But Rodrigo wasn't about that vow of chastity life. Enter Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia, his very real, very influential, very scandal-ridden offspring. Cesare was the golden boy with a mean streak and an army. He was made a cardinal at 18 because, qualifications are overrated when dad's the pope. Later, Cesare ditches the cardinal gig, picks up a sword, and starts carving out a mini-empire in central Italy. Imagine if a bishop turned into a warlord with a designer wardrobe and a kill count. Lucrezia. Oh, poor Lucrezia. History remembers her as either a pawn or a poisoner, depending on which historian was gossiping. But the truth is probably more nuanced. A politically savvy woman used like a chess piece in her father's and brother's power plays. She was married off more times than a royal at a matchmaking gala. Alexander's Vatican wasn't exactly the picture of solemnity. His reign included rumoured orgies, the infamous banquet of chestnuts. Go ahead, Google that at your own risk. Backroom assassinations and enough bribery to make a Wall Street banker blush. Rome under the Borgias, less City of God, and more HBO prestige drama meets House of Gucci. And you better believe people talked. Pamphlets flew, rival families whispered, and the church's enemies had a field day. Reformers were like, see, This is why we need to rethink things. And Martin Luther, not long after, basically goes, "Hold my beer," and kicks off the Protestant Reformation. Picture it. Cesare Borgia, dressed like the world's most fashionable hitman, enters a candle-lit palace chamber. A rival noble kneels to him in greeting. Cesare smiles, then promptly stabs him in the gut. Off-screen, Alexander VI raises a wine goblet and says, "Well, at least he didn't poison this one." Cue laugh track, freeze frame, fade to black. What if Alexander VI hadn't put his kids first? What if he'd actually tried to reform the church instead of reenacting The Godfather? Maybe the Reformation wouldn't have hit Rome like a wrecking ball. Maybe the church wouldn't have lost half of Europe. Maybe we'd be talking about Pope Cesare I instead of that guy who became a mercenary and died of syphilis in a swamp. Right, time for some soberish analysis. Moral clarity, about as clear as a muddy wine glass. Alexander used divine authority to secure worldly power, which is a hard sell at your next confession. Purpose, survival and family legacy, not spiritual renewal, not peace, not even reform. He wanted the Borgias to matter, and he made sure they did, even if he had to bulldoze the Bible to do it. Integrity. If you redefine it as consistency and being consistently opportunistic, then sure. He was a man of his time, navigating a Renaissance Italy that was basically a chessboard of bloody politics. Did he play dirty? Absolutely. But was he the only one? Not a chance. He just did it with better branding. Pope Alexander VI didn't leave behind a clean legacy, but he did leave a powerful one. He shaped the church, the world map, and our understanding of power in religion. His name still conjures up whispers of scandal, sin, and strategy. Was he a monster in a mitre, or just a savvy survivor of a cutthroat age? Maybe both. And maybe that's why he still fascinates us. Stay curious, stay sharp, and stay just sober enough to remember it all. This was just a swig of history, and if it wasn't in your textbook, it bloody well should have been. And before you go, do a brother favour. Like, share, and subscribe. Cheers.